Offensively, I think that we grew a little. We got a little better. It was a pretty good win for a guy like Will Rogers, his first start. Actually, we probably had several guys that had their first start. I think we did have a lot of guys that had their very first start. We've got to be a tougher team on offense. I think offensively, we as coaches have to find a way to generate toughness in our offensive players because right now I don't think they're very tough and pretty pleased and all that isn't quite getting it. So we're going to have to adjust some. But it was a great team win, and I'm very proud of our team, proud of our players.
State's offense moved the ball very efficiently the first three possessions of the game and built up that 17-point lead. And in the second half, it felt like Vandy kind of got the momentum. What kind of adjustments did Vanderbilt make defensively that slowed things down for State offensively?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Vanderbilt. They really didn't do anything. They just saw us lined up, and they pressured us some, and basically watched us take turns screwing up, playing timid, and sitting on the sideline with blank, wide-eyed faces. And I'm getting sick and tired of that.
Thank you.
Okay, John.
Mike, you just mentioned the sitting on the sidelines, the blank and wide faces. How do you, as a coach, kind of address that type of thing, and what goes into fixing something like that?
Well, there's a certain amount of trial and error. You start out by trying to be really nice. Do I think I can? Kind of a training wheels approach, which we're definitely in the training wheels stage. But suffice it to say, it's going to get a little more aggressive than that.
Ben?
Mike, you kind of touched on it there, but when you look at your schedule and what you got left, you go out and put up 204 yards against a team like Vanderbilt, and I know you had some guys out, but what do you do to fix that and going forward and get that offense moving a little bit more consistently like it did in the first half, but maybe not so much in the second half?
I think I pretty well covered that. Let's go ahead and go to the next question.
John?
Mike, can you kind of elaborate a little more on Will's performance today and what else you want to see from him moving forward?
Well, we had a number of people unavailable for today, so I thought he did a pretty good job working through that. I think in spurts where he did play well, I thought it was really impressive for a freshman. True freshman, like all these true freshman sensations. There aren't very many of them. That's why everybody, remembers the very, 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 very few that there are, because it almost never happens. And you go from a guy's a true freshman, you try to play with him, and then you go out on the road recruiting, and as soon as you sign somebody that's supposed to be a really good freshman, you just the media acts like that guy's going to shock the world. Well, that seldom happens. I think that Will stayed relatively composed. I thought that he rallied at the end. I thought that we left a lot of plays on the table between the middle of the second quarter and the middle of the fourth quarter. We have to get a lot tougher at offensive line, because right now, we're kind of a cross between spectators and participants instead of players. We need to become players. And, it's just a simple thing. You can do it once. You may do it one more time. If you do it one more time over and over again until about 85 times, then you're probably going to have a pretty good game. But, the biggest thing that we have to do is we have to play well. I mean, my opinion on our team is going to be based on how well we play within what we're capable of. And at this point, and, I'm not going to be very tolerant of falling short of that. We have to play better and we have to coach better in order to make that happen, because that's where it starts.
Let's go to Steve.
Coach, Malik Heath had a pretty big night for you. Now, how would you assess his performance, and was there a concerted effort to get him more involved?
He's gotten better as time's gone on. He's gone from, and this has been kind of impressive. He's gone from a guy that couldn't line up to a guy that's pretty explosive with the ball and also generates energy in practice. You know, he's definitely headed the right direction, I think. We did want to get him the ball, but he's been doing this in practice the last, I'd say 2 weeks.
Joel.
Mike, when it comes to Will, is it going to continue to be a week-to-week deal, or given he started today, and as you said a minute ago, we're kind of pleased with what he did today, is it something that where he continues to get starts, or is it still going to be a wait and see week to week?
It'll be week to week. I mean, until one of them just jumps off the chart, which up to this point, other than the first game, they really haven't. And so, historically, that's not what I think is the best approach. This volleying it between quarterbacks. I'd like to settle on one. Don't know if that'll happen by the end of this year or not, but I would like to narrow the reps and settle on one.
Dalton.
Yeah, Coach, Jaquavius Marks had 7 catches in that late touchdown. How do you think he's played the last few weeks?
I think he's getting better all the time, too. I mean, he's another guy that I think is quite impressive as a freshman. We call him Woody, so it makes the pronunciation quite a bit easier on us. Yeah, and I think he pretty well goes by that everywhere. He just steadily improves. He's a guy that came there, wasn't intimidated, wasn't one of those intimidated freshmen. Came there ready to play, alert. He's a smart guy. He's a pretty instinctive guy. And even though I think his best days are ahead, he's certainly a big asset for us now.
Ben.
Mike, going into next week, where does KJ kind of stand? Do you expect him to be back in practice on Monday? And how, I guess, healthy do you expect him to be going through next week's practices?
I'll probably split the reps between them.
Joel.
Mike, given the lack of a spring and injury issues and depth issues, and like today, you guys didn't have several guys available. Just how do you, I guess, evaluate? You were mentioning earlier relative to where you think your ceiling is. How far away are you from that right now? Do you feel like?
No, I think we're a long ways. I think, I don't have a roster in front of me, but you just go through the depth chart. I mean, anything that says freshman beside it, definitely has a long ways. And most things that say sophomore beside it has a long ways. And then you can extrapolate that out based on who's played prior to this year. But the other thing is just collectively as a unit, we have to play well. Our play is slowly starting to complement one another, and we have to keep that on track. And I think we got to keep pushing that. And I think that, we've got some guys that are excited to play, but as coaches, we got to teach them to work. I think that we're still learning and discovering step by step how to work hard. We talked about, great effort. Showed a video of Ed Reed, who is like one of the greatest football players ever. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure I give him a game ball. I don't know where he is, but I'll figure out. And then, we need more guys that play with the intensity and passion of Ed Reed. And there's a guy that has learned how to work at a higher level than nearly everybody. You think of Jerry Rice type of guys. Well, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to match their work level. The talent level is one thing, but their work level, I mean, that's the part that everybody's got a little control over. But it's a learned skill, I think, and we have to continue to learn that skill. And I think it's one that younger players don't come in fully prepared with, because I think it develops as you get older and as you've done difficult things and stacked it on top of one another, and in a team atmosphere, guys pushing and challenging each other. And I think that, we're early in that process.
Last question goes to Tyler.
Mike, I know it's not your job to appease a fan base or to, calm anyone's concerns, whether that's fans, media, whoever it is, but what's your message to those who are looking at the last 4 or 5 games and saying, I don't know if, what he's trying to do here is something that can work in a place like Mississippi State?
Well, I mean, every job that I've ever had, all I promised was to give my very best, and they've certainly gotten that. And so, but I get a kick out of, fans feel like they're upset about something. They ought to try it from the coaches and players standpoint. I talked about it on the radio show. It's like breakfast. The chicken's involved, but the pig's committed. Okay. So, well, coaches and players, we're like the pigs. Okay. And, but I certainly appreciate our fan support. There were cowbells. I thought we had a great crowd. I thought they did a great job as far as lifting our team at key times, inspiring us on all sides of the ball, because there were key contributions on all 3 sides of the ball. And that was key. And then, but those that aren't on board or impatient, maybe they can select another team, or maybe they can go coach their own team. And I think that, and then, you can evaluate how their team does and see how it all shakes out.